Live from his apartment, it's the Surge Podcast, starring Sergio Santana.
I don't wanna hurt nobody, I just came to vibe. Tonight we ain't with no drama, tell them take it outside.
With tonight's guests,
Shorty and her friends been looking for a while, tell them come and vibe.
Now here's your host,
Disappear for a little fun to push the high. Forget the problems, man.
Santana.
So our first guest tonight is legendary comedy club owner Al Martin. How you doing, Al?
Thank you. How you doing, Sergio?
Very good.
Sergio or Serge for the show?
Oh, either or. I mean, you know, you
Okay.
call me Serge. We've known each other long enough.
All right, no problem.
I love the steak. It's just.
Well, you know, I don't know if you're aware of it. I do a weekly food review on Facebook Live, 7 o'clock Mondays.
Oh, okay.
And I pick a different topic every week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one week it was hot dogs, deli, seafood, steak. But hey, what's better than a ribeye, you know?
Nothing. Yeah. I was like,
Everybody comments about. I used to have Broadway Comedy Club on the background,
Yeah.
but I think this gets some more questions.
yeah, well, it's way better. Yeah. I mean, no one has steak in the background, you know?
A juicy, medium rare ribeye steak.
Yeah.
That's from Old Homestead.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that because I love cooking shows, and so just talking about different places I can go eat is.
Oh, as you could tell, I'm a foodie, so you know.
Oh my God! So you wrote the book about it's called "I Did It on a Dare," right?
Yeah, it's called "Did It on a Dare: How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years." It's a fun book about my 30 years in comedy, and the sequel will be how coronavirus destroyed it in 6 months.
Everything, just everything.
Everything. I mean, I took a drive through Manhattan. I live in Fort Lee, New Jersey. It literally took me 12 minutes to get to 53rd and 8th.
Unbelievable. Really?
12 minutes. No traffic on the bridge, shut down the West Side Highway. I was literally there in 12 minutes. No cars around, nothing. It was unbelievable.
So as far as like businesses being open at all, like is anybody like really like working? Like what's open?
Well, restaurants, some of them have been operating outside. You know, some of them don't have big spaces to be able to operate, so they could fit one or two tables. It's really sad. I mean, you know, restaurants that years ago were thriving and were big businesses, you know, 6 months ago or a year ago, I went to a great Italian restaurant in Manhattan called Patsy's. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it, but it has 2 floors, and they were always packed on both floors. I went there, and there were like 4 outdoor tables, you know, and it's sad to see. You know, I know, you know, we have to keep the numbers down and stuff, but at some point you got to think about reopening because people don't have jobs to go to. You know, Congress is futzing around with people's, unemployment extension, you know, so
Yeah.
people are getting really desperate, besides the fact that they have too much time on their hands and, you know, they're getting on Facebook into stupid arguments and social media, Twitter. I'm sure you can see that all day long.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you have to take like a diet, like take a break off of social media because of that.
Yeah. You know, if I wasn't trying to promote my books, my wife also happened to write a book, but if I wasn't promoting the books, I wouldn't get on there. It's like a cesspool of shit, you know.
Yeah. And what's crazy, I remember a time, and I know you do as well, is like, well, we didn't have any of this, and it hasn't been that long that we've had.
No, 8 years, 8 years ago, or 10 years, who knows now. But I also remember when Facebook started, it was great. You know, you got to find people that you didn't see in 25 or 30 years. You lost contact with them, and now you want to talk to them again and hook up, you know. Some people wound up hooking up with old boyfriends and girlfriends. And
Yeah.
some of them wound up hooking up with old girlfriends and boyfriends while they were still married to their current boyfriend or girl. So that led to trouble. But yeah, you used to go on there to see food pictures like I have in the background here, and that was great. That was fun. And then politics got into it, and it's a shit show there. It's like a train wreck of people fighting and yelling, and people that I've seen people that are friends for 35 years stop talking because they don't see eye to eye on the politics. So as best as possible, I try to keep away from that stuff.
Yeah. And that's why it's like comedy is even more important now too, is just to have that because on social media it's just taken differently. A joke can be in written form taken anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's very true. I mean, people don't think about it much, but you could say something and people take the literal, and they can't see your face and they can't see what you're meaning to say. It's the same with emails and texts. Yeah. And you can get in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, yeah, and unless you insert an emoji, I guess you have to kind of out.
So have you been doing comedy? What's your thing with comedy? A long time, or?
No. Well, since the pandemic, the last time I did it was March, right before the pandemic. I haven't done it since. Yeah. And
have you gone and done any of the Zooms or outdoor shows? Or?
I did 2 Zoom shows. I didn't care for them. That's why I didn't continue to do it. I kind of like leaned in more into my podcast, but I would like to maybe do some outdoor shows at this point because I'm more comfortable.
Well, you better make up your mind soon because
the outdoor season is cold. Yeah,
it's going to be gone soon. But the thing is, with the Zoom shows, it's very hard, as you say, with your timing. You don't know if the audience is laughing, they're not laughing. So, it's a very tough situation to try to gauge whether you're reaching your audience or not. Now, at Broadway Comedy Club, we have a cabaret room as well where we do music shows. And that's a whole different thing. Music is just a singer up there singing a song for 2 or 3 minutes. And then you can put the applause after it, technology-wise. And you wouldn't know if there was a crowd in the room or not. You could do it in an empty room and kind of get away with it. But in comedy, you really need that feedback as a comedian to know whether the audience is digging you or not.
Oh, absolutely. I think one thing that was good about it was once I started doing the podcast, it's weird because I don't have anyone in front of me, but I started doing a monologue. And I got to the point where, I'm writing topical jokes every week where I would write more personal material. And then I have a teleprompter now too to aid me, but I'm basically doing crowd work the lights. There's nothing there, so it's just mimicking. Those expressions. It's still good, I guess, to be in practice, but I would appreciate a real crowd in front of me. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, hopefully we get there one of these days. The comedy clubs have been trying very hard to get reopened up. We thought we were opening up in July, there was a progression and a number of phases that the city was supposed to have, and we were in phase 4, one phase behind indoor dining, and indoor dining was scheduled to open somewhere in mid-July, and we figured we'd be open in late July, early August, and then at the last minute, the governor announced that they wanted to continue everything outdoors as long as possible. And what was bizarre, though, is that they really are not big on outdoor comedy shows either. They've been cracking down on that. And I could never understand that because outdoor comedy is just one extra person on a stage telling jokes. I don't, if you're going to allow dining outdoors, why not comedy outdoors? Especially the way most of these clubs are hemorrhaging. I mean, no money for 6 months, but rent is due, ironically, certain taxes are due, every quarter. So the government's asking you for the taxes, but they're not letting you make the money to pay the taxes, which is bizarro,
Yeah.
Insurance companies, which should have been paying business interruption insurance or not. But on top of that, they also want their insurance money for protecting your space, even though you're not doing business in that space. So the whole thing has been really rough, and it's been a nightmare for a lot of businesses. And I'm not sure when all is said and done, if it doesn't open up much sooner, how many casualties there'll be in Manhattan in the stand-up comedy world.
So do you think that, like, when it does reopen, so you think there's going to be, I guess, new clubs that will reopen, or how do you envision the after pandemic type of?
Well, I think I can't imagine any lunatic deciding to open up a comedy club from scratch.
Yeah, that was.
You might have a situation where a comedy club changes ownership or something because the ownership might want to get out, and you might have fresh owners coming in. But I can't imagine a new comedy club opening in Manhattan, because a lot of the elements that make a comedy club successful, the two main elements are tourists and New Yorkers. Now, tourists, they ain't coming into Manhattan right now. People aren't flying in general. And 35 out of the 50 states are on the quarantine list anyway. Yeah. So anything to have weeks before they start their vacation. So out-of-towners ain't coming in. And as far as the locals, it's very weird. I spent the pandemic, most of it in Florida. Okay. And the attitude of Floridians is very different than the attitude of the people in New York. Like, I came here, and we quarantined, we locked down for about a month or two in Florida, and then they started opening things. But, we had a scare where we thought someone we knew might have been exposed. So my wife and I quarantined for 2 weeks. It turned out that the person was exposed to coronavirus, but it was after we saw them.
Okay.
They were exposed after we saw them. So we saw them on a Tuesday, and they got exposed to it on Thursday, and then they tested positive on a Friday. But I said to my wife, we have a lot of friends in Florida. We go out. I don't want to take a chance that I get someone else sick. So we quarantined for 2 weeks, and it was okay. Then we quarantined for another 2 weeks when we got back to New York from Florida. Yeah. So we're locked down and quarantined out,
So did you ever get tested? Have you been tested?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I got tested. I haven't had, obviously I think I would have known if I had corona, being older and, some pre-existing conditions like high blood pressure. My wife has asthma. So I didn't think I had it at any point, but I did test for the antibodies, and I was negative. So apparently I haven't had it. I haven't had corona. But we're very careful, even in Florida, the beach that we would go to, our condo was on the beach. So the only people that had really access to it were people in the building. There's no parking in the area. So it's not like someone can go, hey, I want to go to the beach and, bring their whole families and friends with them. It was a fairly private beach. So we were always socially distanced at the beach. There was never, ever more than 4 or 5 people in the pool. And the restaurants, for the first 3 months was only takeout and delivery.
Yeah.
And then when they finally opened up in Florida, they opened up at 25, or then quickly went to 50% capacity. But we were always very careful in the restaurants too. We would stay away from what I called young people places, where the young people are hanging out, in the bars and drinking and acting stupid and not wearing masks. So, we tended to go to where old farts like me go,
Yeah, I mean, I was in Florida for a little while, not during the pandemic, but I was just thinking about how Florida is so loose with their laws in general. So
yeah, it's wide open, like especially Fort Lauderdale during spring break. Where the spring breakers go, they go to the public beach on Fort Lauderdale, and that was packed. I'm sure you saw pictures of people at the beach. in Fort Lauderdale during spring break, they weren't wearing masks. They were walking around like there was no such thing as a coronavirus, you know. And thank God, you know, people say to me, "Oh, Florida's very dangerous," you know. I said, "Yeah, if you go to that beach, it's very dangerous. If you go to those bars, it's very dangerous." But you know, when I went into stores, I wore a mask, and that's a very basic thing: wear a mask. And I got the hand sanitizer, so whenever I did a few errands, I got back in the car and, you know, put the hand sanitizer on and try to live life as best as possible, you know?
No, you're doing the right thing. I saw a clip of actually with the beach like crowded, and there was a guy dressed as Death walking around. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty.
No, I didn't see that.
He was protesting them not wearing masks and stuff, and he was dressed as Death, which it was pretty hot outside to be walking.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a lot of young people feel like, hey, I want to meet a girl tonight. I don't want to be in a mask, and the girls, you know, don't want to ruin their makeup, you know. So, but we're talking like people in their 20s. Their brains haven't totally developed yet, you know. So they're not thinking right, and but there are a lot of stupid older people too that I'm not wearing a mask or I don't believe in it, you know. And, you know, then they wind up in a COVID ward, you know. So
yeah,
you got to be real careful. You know, my main concern is, you know, once they even open, you know, I go to restaurants and I see people much more preferring to eat outdoors.
yeah.
And a lot of people are so terrified about anything indoors right now that they don't go to indoor dining, you know. And so I'm not sure if, you know, people, it's like a half and half. People tell me, like, a lot of young people want to go out. So I think they'll go out to the comedy clubs, but I'm not certain, you know. I mean, it's a very uncertain future for our business because it's like we don't have the tourists to draw from. We all got to draw from the locals.
Yeah.
And New Yorkers have been so put into a state of shock with this thing that, you know, they're terrified. But, you know, I guess the hope is with younger people that they do want to go out and they still want to enjoy their youth, you know?
Yeah. So do you think that like during the pandemic, as far as you know how new comics go to open mics and stuff. So you think that the Zoom is like kind of like the new open mic? So we're like kind of touching on what we were talking about earlier, but I just kind of just popped in my head the thought.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. Like, I think Zoom will serve its purpose for now as a Band-Aid. I do think once the clubs are open and people feel safe to go, I think Zoom is going to Zoom away. I really, you know, it's something to get up on stage. The outdoor shows are fun. Shows in the park are fun, but at some point, people want to be in a proper place that was built for comedy clubs. Now, you know, I feel that we should be given a chance to try to make it all happen at a reduced capacity with 6-foot distancing, the staff wearing masks and gloves, touchless menus, plexiglass in the box office, sanitizing stations throughout the place, lids on the cups for drinks. I think we can do it safely. You know, we have protocols in place for the comics, you know, changing of microphones and all sorts of different things. So I'm just kind of hoping at some point the governor and the mayor let us do our thing. And we had a demonstration last week, which was highly publicized in New York. I think just about the Post, the Times, all the news stations were there. We got good publicity on it. We have been in touch with legislative people who have been working our case, presenting our case to the elected authorities. Mayor de Blasio last week said that comedy clubs were next for consideration. Of course, you might consider it and say, "Oh, no good," you know. But we're optimistic and hoping that there will be some guidelines set forth. Now, I'm not thrilled with the fact that the numbers are going up now a little bit in New York. I think we recently had a day with 1,000 new cases or something, which is the highest since April. But, you know, that has really nothing to do with indoor dining. It's mostly certain communities in Brooklyn and Queens that are not wearing masks, and some upstate New York college campuses where the kids were running a little amok. So, but I don't think it had anything to do with restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, it must be frustrating. I mean, it looks like the rules are just different everywhere. I know, like in Jersey, I had Benny Brand on the show a few weeks ago, and he does a big outdoor thing at his club. And then in Philly, they just opened up literally just I think the last 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe the last month or so. Punchline, they were doing outdoor shows. I went to one of those, and then was it Helium just opened up, but they're doing indoor.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's working. I haven't had an opportunity to come.
Well, the key is Philly having any major outbreaks or anything? I haven't heard anything about it.
No.
Where it's going to be interesting to see starting tonight, indoor dining is back in New York. So I would love to see in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now what the numbers are like. And, I really think the indoor dining has been made the scapegoat for all of this, but I really think it's irresponsible behavior on a lot of people's parts that are causing the problem. I just don't understand why you can't go to a comedy club, but you can pack 200 people into a tube and send it 30,000 feet in the air.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. The rules
and socially distant.
Yeah.
What?
I said the rules are.
Yeah, there's no way we're socially distant on a plane, right?
No. It doesn't. I've been trying to wrap my head around a lot of the rules. Like some of them are just, it's just a pick and choose, and some of it is like, okay, well, this is a necessity, like you can go to the market or something like that. But it's still, at this point, we're just crowded now. I don't see them counting people at the door anymore or anything like that. It's just, it's keeping.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
I went dining in Long Island, which allows indoor dining at between 25 and 50%. And, it's bizarre because that's in Nassau County, 3 blocks away in Bayside, Queens, or in Little Neck, Queens. They don't allow indoor dining. It's only outdoor. So you see these restaurants in Queens struggling, with outdoor dining, and it's a rainy day or very humid. People don't want to go out. They say, to hell with that. I'll just drive my car 5 blocks into Nassau County and I can eat indoors.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that the air conditioning systems in Nassau County are any different than the ones in Queens? Or bowling alleys or movie theaters, or, doesn't make sense.
Or even like a Broadway in general. Like if they can have they could do Broadway at least, I guess, like a sporting event. I don't see the difference at this point.
Well, the problem with Broadway, Sergio, is that theoretically you could take a 1,500 seat theater, like where Hamilton might be, or another show, and socially distant people, and maybe make the capacity 400 seats, rather than 1,500. The problem is at 400 seats, when you have to pay union electricians and union carpenters and union musicians and union actors, their wages, there's no way you can afford, the box office people. There's no way you can afford to economically open, without being in serious trouble. You can't do it. You'd have to pay $600 to watch a Broadway show.
Oh wow, yeah. I guess because I'm thinking like, I'm like, why can they put them in a bubble or something like that, have them together or something? But it's not so much that they can't figure out a way to socially distance people. It's socially distancing them economically. Yeah,
and that's a problem. And then and the like even in football, well, football's got TV contracts and baseball's got TV contracts, but they're opening up football stadiums now. I think in Florida, the Miami Dolphins have a 60,000 seat stadium. I think they're opening it up to 15,000 seats.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But you could be pretty socially distanced in a huge stadium with 15,000 people. You know, you have people sitting in every 4 or 5 rows or something. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think they Kansas City and yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like they-
Kansas City did it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. It's just the rules. I don't know. I always hear like after the elections, all this is going to go away. You know, it's just going to just disappear the next day. But that's
Hey,
wishful.
what's that bridge in the background? Is that the Verrazano, or
You know what? This is actually no.
is that a bridge?
This is a bridge. This is a bridge. This is actually I think this is the Ben Franklin Bridge, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Oh, in Philly. Is that where you're based out of, or are you
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
out of Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You mentioned helium before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, number 1 cheesesteak for my show.
Well, I prefer chopped cheesesteaks outside of the city, like like in the suburbs, because I live in Delco. So,
You know, it's very funny. A lot of people, when you say, "What's the best cheesesteak in Philly?" and then you get all the people that go, "Oh, Pat's." Some people go, "Geno's." There's always that one native Philadelphian that says both of those places are tourist traps.
yeah,
You got to go to this other place, and then they'll say John's or Luke's or something else.
oh, there. I mean, in the city, I mean, I Max's is good. Oregon Steaks. I wouldn't go to Pat's and Geno's at all. That's for tourists for sure. Yeah, that's just. It's not even it's not a real cheesesteak. I have Cheese Whiz. I'm a grown man. I don't want Cheese Whiz on my cheesesteak. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
You know, it's funny though. I like the cheese whiz. I always find provolone a little too strong for me. You know, it's a strong cheese.
Well, I put American actually. Most of the places, like around here do American, and it's just they chop it and everything's mixed up.
Right.
During the quarantine, perfected my cheesesteak. So I mean, I maybe one of these days I'll make one for you because I really got that in my hoagies because I didn't. You get
Maybe I should have you on my Facebook show.
Oh yeah.
Because we haven't done an episode on cheesesteaks. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I'll be
Maybe
fun.
you know what? Instant messaging me your picks, and
Okay.
I'll have you as a correspondent that day.
Okay, that sounds. I am somewhat of a cheesesteak snob, so
There you go.
yeah. So I try them everywhere. It doesn't matter where I'm at in the country. And if even though I think it's going to be nasty, I still have to try it because every once in a while I'm surprised. Like you get lucky. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I went to Atlantic City and I had a sub at this place called White House Subs. I don't know if you've ever heard of it in Atlantic
I had
City.
it. Yeah.
And they made a pretty good cheesesteak too.
Yeah, they had the bread. The bread was good. I think that's a big part
The
of
bread is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's made by a bakery down the block. But, you know, South Jersey's got that great water that comes from the Pine Barrens. So it's pristine water.
Yeah, I love pastrami sandwiches too. That's one of my biggest things, but you can't really get that around here. I don't know. It's just so weird how.
Oh, you know where you can get a good pastrami sandwich in Philly? One of
Where?
the best around? I think they hand carve it too, not that sliced machine stuff.
Mm.
Go to the Reading Terminal.
Oh yeah.
There's a New York style deli in there.
Mhm.
That's top notch.
Everything in there is great. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get lost in that place for a whole day. I could start out with breakfast, lunch, and, you know, wander around for dinner.
Have you done an episode there? You should. That's
I should. Well, I did talk about that deli when
Uh-huh.
I did the episode on New York style delis, but yeah, I've had just about everything in that place at one time or another, you know.
Yeah, it's great.
Philly's a great town. I like to go there. I like to see the Liberty Bell and all that stuff over there.
Yeah.
That very historic city. One thing I will never do is go there with an opposing team's jersey.
Yeah.
Any sporting event, you will die. You will die.
I am a huge Eagles fan, and they're just hurting my feelings again this year. You know, it's this love-hate relationship with Philly.
Well, if I remember correctly, the Eagles did win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
yeah,
Right? 2, 3. Try talking to a Jet fan like me. It's been 50 years. I was 10 years old when the Jets last won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's been one team, one lousy team. How could you be that bad for 50 years? It's incredible.
It's just dumb luck. It's meant to be. but that's the hard part about it. You know, you stay loyal to them, and you're like, this is the year. You know, every year.
Well, you know, that's true. And then I got fed up, and I said, you know what? I can't take this anymore. At least the Giants, they have a history of winning the Super Bowl in the last, 20 years, 25 years. They've had great teams. They've had good quarterbacks, Eli Manning, Phil Simms. So I said, all right, I'm not rooting against the Jets, but I'm going to hop on the Giants. And then now they're a horrible team. I'm starting to think it's me.
Yeah. Don't. The Eagles are bad enough. We don't need you. We don't.
You know what? Maybe I'll root for the Eagles. I'll really mush you up.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight, Al. Where can everybody find you?
Well, you can find me at home in my living room in my underwear right now. I'm not doing anything, and that's been about the same for the last 3 months, 6 months. No, but a couple of things I want to promote. Of course, my two clubs when they reopen, Broadway Comedy Club and Greenwich Village Comedy Club. My book, which is, as you were kind enough to let me plug it before, Did It on a Dare, How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. And if I may, my wife has written a fabulous book during the pandemic. My wife actually found her mother's journals that she wrote during World War II when she was globetrotting, escaping the Nazis during World War II.
Oh, you froze.
About her journey for 7 years on the run. And then, finally landing here and starting a life and raising a family. It's called One Woman, Two Lives, The Secret Journal of a Holocaust Survivor.
That sounds amazing. That's
an incredible journey. Both the books are available on Amazon in Kindle. My book is also available in paperback, as is my wife's. And mine is also available on Audible.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
So, and I really thank you for the time and giving me the opportunity. And hopefully I see you at the clubs and we're all back on the stage soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time. And ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Al Martin.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.